do you think President Trump just thinks he's in too deep now to come out and say anything against?
So I've been so Jimmy, you're forcing me out of the shadows on this one because I'm busy talking to various let's say conservative influencers that have a line to the gentleman about what the heck do we do with his recent posting on Truth Social, in which he came out and endorsed the jab so heavily, talked about how it's now curing cancer.
Yeah.
What a great job he did. And he ridiculed Biden for and basically taunted him, saying that Biden wouldn't have had a jab. He didn't say that, a vaccine product, if Trump hadn't done everything that he had done. So with this one post that dropped, I think the day after the infamous State of the Union address, Mr. Trump created just a shitstorm among the people that have been basically holding their nose and saying, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump instead of RFK, because Trump, even though we don't like the fact that he is responsible for the jab, he is a better manager. He is knowledgeable. He's a potential wartime president. He's going to be able to fight the deep state more effectively. All this relative to RFK. And so there's a whole cohort of conservatives that are now in a real bind because of this tweet from Mr. Trump. And you just put the pin in it when you said, well, what's going on here, and why this and why this issue. There's three observations, and I'm not at Donald Trump's head either, thank God. So I don't know what he's thinking, but it did sound like he was reacting to some of the things that he heard in the State of the Union address that pissed him off. However,
okay,
I just
it also came right after Super Tuesday. And so a case can be made that he felt that he was now on safe ground because he passed through the Super Tuesday funnel. Not that that was ever going to be that much of a filter for him. And so he could let his hair down a little bit, so to speak. Yeah, thanks for the laugh. That was gratuitous, but I'll tell you. And I'm not a comedian, so forgive me, Jim. It did come right after Super Tuesday, and it just reeked of a big pharma donor. So I don't know what the motivation was here. I don't know what the backstory is. I just know that as somebody who has been cautiously walking a tightrope in this space, believing that Mr. Trump is the best option currently to address the huge problems we have with the deep state right now, and the World Health Organization and the WEF. Remember, he bravely took stances then that he was ridiculed for, that now in retrospect look prescient. They look like they were brilliant. Yeah, and very much foreshadowed where we're at right now. So there's a lot, as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot to like about Mr. Trump. I haven't endorsed anybody, but I've been carefully walking a line in case I get called to duty at some future conservative administration. I don't want to piss anybody off. But then he came out with this posting, and it not only was a problem for me because I've been speaking favorably of him, despite my strong position regarding the ethics and the lack of scientific merit, in my opinion, for continuing with this product. But I'm still perplexed about why, and about what can be done to help Mr. Trump to see through the propaganda and to see, for instance, the vaccine injured. and recognize that they're there, to see the damage that has been caused by this and this set of policies. And to what is most bizarre is that he functionally, with this statement that these mRNA products are now curing cancer, he functionally endorsed both the industry and Peter Marks at the FDA, who's been behind a lot of shenanigans, because Peter Marks is advocating that we have another Operation Warp Speed for cancer.
So that your kid, I didn't know this. So Peter Marks at the FDA is saying, by the way, did he already work for Pfizer?
He's the one that Peter Corey told us was like, we do this just to do it, work on these viruses. Wasn't he? Was not him? I'm
not sure. Maybe. So go ahead, Doctor. You want to say something?
Yeah. So Marks has had a charmed career. He is a member of the National Academy of Sciences now, or National Academy of Medicine. He was very rapidly promoted within FDA. He absolutely was the person, together with the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, that came up with Operation Warp Speed. He absolutely has been advocating that OWS, which is such a success in his opinion, is now needs to be repurposed for cancer. And so we need to accelerate by dropping a lot of these burdensome FDA regulations.
Oh God.
That's his claim to fame, is he's been advocating that we need to drop a lot of the FDA regulations so that drugs can come to market more rapidly. So that's this guy is the kingpin at the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research that's been behind all of these things that have happened with the vaccine. And he is someone who identifies with this program. He created it, and he is a staunch defender of it. And he is also in the position of being the gatekeeper for information, for disinformation, as far as I'm concerned, like the withholding of information about myocarditis that's happened throughout the government, and the kind of propaganda push, justification around these products that has been presented to Congress. Peter Marks is the guy.
And so if you're so I'll just make this, you don't have to comment on it, but if you're voting just on the COVID narrative and you're voting on vaccines,
as many people say they will,
it would be RFK Jr. would be your guy way over Donald Trump, because Donald Trump keeps doubling down on his horrible position on his Operation Warp Speed and all the other stuff, whereas RFK knows that stuff inside and out, and he can tell you why it's wrong. He can ask the questions that guys like Peter Marks and Hotez and Fauci can't answer. RFK Jr. knows those questions because he knows the answers to those questions. Those guys also know the answers to those questions, but they know if they give you the answer to those questions, it will reveal them to be fraud.
Here's the paradox. I'm glad we're getting into politics. This is much more interesting than what makes RNA work. So imagine this voter, undecided, on the fence, trying to make some decisions, who's now presented with the rematch. And is that voter going to vote for RFK because they're so concerned with the damage that they experienced from the whole COVID mismanagement? Is that voter going to choose RFK over Donald Trump because of this one issue? Or is that voter going to say, this would be throwing my vote away to place it with RFK Jr., and I'm going to go with what I see as the lesser of two evils, which, no matter what you think about Mr. Trump's positions during his term in terms of accelerating the product, he isn't the one that was out there at the podium saying, get this shot, or you should be isolated, forcing people to take them, get this and it will stop the virus, all of that propaganda, that was all coming out of Biden, not Trump. And so is this hypothetical swing voter going to feel that they would be tossing away their vote to RFK, as opposed to going with somebody who has a proven track record of standing up against the globalists and has a bit of a bone to pick after all the harassment he's received over the last couple of years, and knows where the bodies are buried, knows what he has to do because he got so stymied last time, and is supported by this big effort that's coming out of so many different conservative groups right now to make sure that he has a depth at the bench when he does his appointments, and he doesn't end up inadvertently appointing a bunch of deep staters again, if that's in fact what
like
actually happened.
like he did the first time.
Right, and this. So if that's the case, is this hypothetical voter going to be willing to go with RFK? And the polls are suggesting that it might be the case. The polls, and there was just an essay out from the British journal Unheard, making the case that Bobby could be finally the person in a position to disrupt the two-party system in the United States. Now, I think that's highly unlikely, but could Bobby possibly capture enough electoral college to deny either Trump or Biden 270, which then throws it into the House, and God only knows what happens then. Because as I read the Constitution, it's not clear, what transpires then. It's one vote per state. I'm not clear who's going to appoint the electors. It's going to be a hot mess if it goes to the House.
No, Kurt, go ahead. Kurt's got something to say.
I Googled when you said, Trump saying vaccine cures cancer, because I hadn't heard. That's insane. So the first thing that pops up is Newsweek. Fact check. Are COVID vaccines being used to beat cancer? Claimed by Joe Biden, I guess is the State of the Union. Fact check by Newsweek. True. Wait. So Trump's also saying that because he wants the credit for these amazing cancer-curing vaccines. Right. This is from The Hill 4 days ago. Trump's vaccine rhetoric worries public health experts. Why? He's saying the same thing. Because during a recent campaign rally, he said he's going to cut funding for any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. So Trump is on board that the vaccine cures, whatever the hell that was. They're calling him anti-vax because he's against the mandates and the mask bullshit.
That's right.
So I think actually he could draw the votes, is what I'm saying, from seeing this. Because they're going to make it out that he's against the vaccine. Yeah. And people that know...
So people right now...
People don't know he said this.
People right now think, people who are what I consider Democratic voters, consumers of CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, and MSNBC, they think Trump is anti-vax for some... And it's the craziest thing. And I have to always explain to him, no, he's wanted credit for the vax ever since it was introduced.
Yes.
He's not going to get credit, so they are going to vote for him.
It pisses him off that he doesn't get the credit.
Yeah.
Say it again?
It pisses Trump off that he doesn't get enough credit for his achievement.
Yeah, that is it. That is right.
He's not on board for lockdowns and all that other bullshit, and that's why they're calling him anti-vax, which, by the way, how crazy is that to be against the lockdowns that definitely were not helpful? And the masks, people on C-SPAN still have on the masks that don't work.
I know.
They don't even have N95, these morons.
I know.
I'm telling you, right now, they are doubling down on the propaganda big time. There was a piece out from MedPage today. Paul Offit has put out a video about this, and in particular, they're doubling down on denying that the virus emerged from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Oh, you're kidding!
That it was part of gain of function.
Well, it's good we're doing work with them again.
There is a huge propaganda campaign that is getting spun up as we speak.
And my guess is the reason for that is they want to cement in people's heads that because they know if Trump or Bobby becomes president, that they will and people will be held account for funding the gain of function.
They'll be held to pay.
And so
and the other thing, Jimmy, is that the House currently has a bill supported by the Republicans to ban gain of function research, and this academic screaming is reaching a fever pitch over this.
They're still doing it. We covered it. They're still funding in China They're still funding. They're trying to do gain of function on bird viruses, and they just won't. They just won't stop doing this.
It's not just in China. It is across the board. This is viewed as a right by elite virologists to tinker with viruses in order to make them more pathogenic.
Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We're going to be in Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, London.